Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to all who follow this online forum in conjunction with the Arts USM Art Research In program. Today, I'm grateful to have two great panelists from Malaysia and Indonesia. My name is Dr. Muhammad Ashik. I will be the moderator for this evening session, and I would like to introduce our first invitation panel, Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Zaffwan bin Idris of Universiti Pendidikan Sultan Idris, Tanjung Malim, Perak, and our second panel is Associate Professor Dr. D.Des from Universitas 11 Maret, Solo, Indonesia. These two panelists are well known to the creative field in Malaysia and Indonesia through their many academic and practice contribution to their respective country. Therefore, we are fortunate to hear opinion from both panelists on today's topic with this culture in the age of social media. So, maybe as an introduction to our audience who are following on the Arts USM FB Facebook live page, maybe you can tell everyone what is the current research both of you working on now. Probably we can start with Prof. Zaffwan.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Dr. Ashik, for kind introduction. Currently, I'm actually finishing my FRGS Fundamental Grant Research. The area of this research particularly looking at intangible cultural heritage preservation through digital. And we are looking at some of the traditional dance or performing arts like Zapin and Makyom. So that's pretty much the current research that I'm working on, and hopefully, we'll finish the research in several months from now.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Zaffwan. How about Prof. D.Des? What is your current research working now?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me in this meeting, and thank you for the double introduction. Yeah, my current research, I am in the dance filmmaking, yeah, but I use the old Japanese literature in the 18th century as a basis. This is like my last film, which is I will present in this occasion later. So this research, this film based on a Japanese tradition, and also about the situation now, about the pandemic, and about the chaos situation during the pandemic that we face, not only in Indonesia but also all over the world. So the production is next month, yeah, and it will be finished in 2 months. And after that, yeah, like usual, I will send it into the festival. Maybe that's my current research right now. Thank you.
Okay, Prof. D.Des, probably you have something to share with us. I mean, from your screen, you are allowed to do that. Dr. Sarina already said you if you want to set any file to share with the audience. Feel free to share. Yep.
Yeah, maybe later, Dr. Ashik.
All right, no problem. Okay, before we start, I would like to share some from the study shows that this is an issue that is often debated in today's technology age. Malaysia and Indonesia are countries with a unique culture and rich in custom and tradition that can be seen as contrary to our cultural norms. But advance in communicating technology have been one of the fastest and most important advancement in overcoming time. Community remains a major challenge to communicate effectively. In the context of social media, communication process do not only apply to a specific cultural context, which is a unified belief in common norms, assumption, and symbols, but transcends physical and boundaries. Panel member will discuss local, international, regional culture and how society communicates today, especially through media, social, and context of Malaysia and Indonesia. What we can see from this issue is that there are pro and con sides to social media. I'm going to list some of the issue and consequences of today's social media use. For pros, we can staying in touch, access to news, finding job, planning event, growing client base, law enforcement and civil protection. Which and the good thing, the best thing about social media is it's really fun, but the con is cyberbullying problem. Privacy is non-existent. Ads are scary. Data impossible to delete, and growth of anti-social tendency. So with that reference to the data obtained, can Prof. Zaffwan see this? What do you think about the social and cultural media that is happening to the world today?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ashe. Before I continue, I guess from the list of participants, I can see some of the names are quite familiar. Anyway, back to the original question. I guess one of the most exciting things happening today with the current technology, digital technology and social media technology, is that we have the opportunity to be connected and to stay connected. I think a lot of things happening nowadays happen in digital context. So being able to connect or stay connected is very important. Of course, I'm talking about the general population. There are certain population who are able to continue with their life without having the internet connectivity. But I guess for the majority of people, we need somehow to continue our life or our work. For students, for example, to continue their study through the connection or connectivity of the internet. So I think that's pretty much a good thing. Most probably because in Malaysia we have 4Gs. Hopefully soon we can get 5Gs, and that will enhance our connectivity and perhaps optimize our work environment. And when we talk about opportunity, we talk about how we can improve our works and studies. I mean, just look back probably in early 2000. We as a government servant, we still need to use this card to punch in, punch out. Even until now, when we use digital, we still use the term punch in, punch out to reflect the way we go in and go out from our office, right? And even our pay slip, even when we apply for leave, it's all being done in digital form. And with the current pandemic, of course, our teaching and learning need to be shifted. So it's very unfortunate we haven't found the vaccine for the virus. So until we until the scientists can find the vaccine, we need to accept that most of our work and teaching and learning need to be conducted through online. And I guess when we talk about work, we talk about study, we cannot also, escape that we also talk about our life in general. Our life in the sense that we need to have a relationship. We need to do, there is an interaction within our relationship. We need to socialize as a human. I guess there's a need. When we look at Maslow theory, being socialized is one of the basic needs for human being, and we need to express ourselves. So having said that, I mean, all this can happen through digital technology, through media social, and that is, it's for me, it's very exciting. But of course, like our moderator, Dr. Ashid, mentioned, there is a pro and cons. But if we look back at the history of human being, I mean, there are always pros and cons for almost everything in our life. So I guess it's a matter of how quick we adapt the new technology. I mean, when I say adapt, meaning that there must be some adjustment to it. Adopt is something that we take 100%. But when we say adapt, I guess it's up to us to suit with our needs. So in this case, like what I can relate is that our teaching and learning, our assessment online, which normally happen in the physical context. Of course, some university has embraced blended learning, and some like Open University, they already conducted online learning for many years. But for the majority of schools, university, we still have this blended mode where we have a physical and also online combination of both. And the current situation, it forced us to focus more on the most of our lecturers. I'm not saying that just this has happened to old timer or like senior lecturers, but sometimes it also can happen to younger lecturers as well. I mean, the feel of unease and uncomfortable conducting teaching and learning through online. But I guess, like our Prime Minister said, this is a new normal or new norm. Eventually, this become normal, and I think it's become our second nature. So perhaps this is, for me, looking from the positive side, having the technology available, having the social media available, really improve our life. If you want to look at the positive side, I think that's all just for now.
Thank you, Prof. Zaffwan. Okay, how about you, Prof. Danny? What did you think about it?
Yeah, I think the what is that the phenomena is not really different with the other countries. Yeah, social and cultural media, especially from the technology is transforming rapidly. Yeah, culture and media are shifting from conventional. In Indonesia, it is the same with other countries. We are forced to adapt the new situation and condition. But of course, we find some difficulties due to the age gap, education and facilities, and also habit or traditional custom. Yeah. For example, of course, if we need a different approach from the younger and older generation. Younger is easier. They are born and rise in this era with this technology. We don't need to teach much about it. And what we need to teach them is the spirit, norm, and values in communication. But for the older generation, we need to be more active to assist them to embrace the technology and the new culture. And technology can help us to certain level to preserve the culture. For example, I make a dance film in which there is a shift in presentation and the culture. Like this condition today, nowadays, we can have or hold a massive stage performance, but we can presented in the new media. And yeah, we know that every generation will grow according to their era. The new technology, of course, shape the way of the people in this era, on the way people of this era interact and communicate. And like what Dr. Zaffwan said, that as a lecturer, yeah, for example, I need to learn the new technology to teach the students. Because we have the responsibility to pass down the norm, values, spirit, and essence to the student. But the way we deliver the knowledge should adapt their era. Like maybe I remember what Khalil Gibran said about teach your children for the time, not yours, like that. So every element of the society needs specific approach and has particular role to survive this era. I think that's maybe the introduction, yeah, or from my opinion. Thank you, Dr. Asik.
Okay, thank you to both of our panelists. We can see more but what we are facing now is a profound change in the culture of communication and introduction to the outside world. Created and used camera have created a celebrity culture. Computers have been introduced for communication purposes. When these two technologies were combined, it changed the pattern of relationship between the world great society today. Broadband set the web from text to image, a network of social networks spreading into interconnected networks. Both cultures betray the same urge. As we look deeper, celebrity and relationship are both ways to be known. And no wonder social media celebrities are easier to identify and popular than they are. This is what the contemporary self wants. They want to be known, to be connected, and to be seen. For example, many celebrities born on social media like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and so on have reached millions of followers. It shows how we become real to ourselves by seeing exaggerate this great contemporary trend. Indirectly, our lives are exclusive in our relationship with other people, and social way of life that is lost in solitude. Through this technology is not only eliminates our privacy and focus, it also impairs our ability to be alone. What can you see about this culture in Indonesia, Prof. Denny, specifically?
I think it's the same. It's happening everywhere. I mean, people are forced to change and then to adapt the situation with this digital technology. And right now we cannot live with social media. Like every day I have to update my status, yeah, like in Facebook, you know that, and in Instagram, and also Dr. Zaffwan, yeah, because he has a lot of followers. Like when he update one picture, and then maybe he will get maybe 400 what is that, likes, yeah. And maybe I'm for 400, I need 3 months, but it's I mean the situation is almost the same everywhere, and we need to adapt with the new media and also the new culture. When we want to live and when we want to what is that, to be exist in this era.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Denny. How about in Malaysia, Prof. Zaffwan?
I guess it's I mean, in the context of social media, it seems like quite new, but throughout the history of human interaction, I guess this phenomena, like social, where we call now SOMEC, yeah? Social media, SOMEC, celebrity. This is back to again human nature. If we look based on the theory of leisure class, this was coined by Thorsten Walden, and this was to be found in 1899 in the book called Conspicuous Consumption, whereby the people, there's a culture where we invited our guests to our home or to our house, and the setting of the house, to present our status in our culture. Again, it's not much different from the social media. I mean, people use this platform to perhaps share their daily life. Maybe to get more or like Dr. Denny said, of course, I usually upload my status or my picture because I love taking photos or love giving comments. But you have to be careful. I mean, sometimes not all your opinions are taken positively. That's why I guess it needs to be adjusted, especially when you are, for example, like a leader in your society, or perhaps bearing a professional title. Then your comment sometimes have a very huge weightage as compared to and other netizen, right? And I guess we have to admit that culture do shapes our identity, but it doesn't define us solely. It's very fluid. Like we can always change it, and we can see that although culture influence the way we believe, the way we act. But there are other factors that influence our behavior, like our family values. Even we live like Malay society. Every family in Malay society has their own different values. When we get married and we interact or assimilate with our wife or husband's family, and then we notice that, hey, their family has different value from us, which we probably didn't notice when we live in our own family. We have a different personality characteristic, right? So that's also define our identity. Friends and colleagues which influence us. Sometimes the way we talk might influence our friends, the way they talk. Our education level can also alter our identity. I remember, this is my own case. Like I have a son. My eldest son now is 16 years old, in Form 4. I remember a few years ago, I told him that if you want to open or register a Facebook account and put your digital presence in social media, you need to be above 14, right? So I put some cap age for them, for him to have his presence in social media. But I learned my lesson. So even though I said he can register Facebook after his age turned 14, but he didn't need to have a Facebook account. What he did was he actually created Instagram. And the thing that he mentioned that really opens my eyes is that Facebook is for oldest, for old generation. So the new generation, they don't use Facebook. they use Insta or WeChat. I don't know. But this is back to what mentioned by I couldn't remember the name, but I think it's supposed to be like our medium is the message. This is by I think Marshall McLuhan. So the media become the message. So the way how we share our message through different media means different things. And I guess at the university level, I guess this has become some trend or culture where every university in Malaysia, there has this confession in Facebook. I guess you see, or UPSI confession. We have a USM confession. And this is where all the students and some, not even the students, maybe staff, express their feelings, they express their satisfaction or dissatisfaction in the media. And it's very unfortunate for the top management that they have to entertain those comments and complaints. This was not happen, I think, 10 years ago. But I mean, if you have a complaint, you have to do it formally. But now, even through social media, which we can say that it's not formal, it's been taken seriously. So I mean, this is in general scenario that I guess perhaps some of the example that I given happen in Malaysia, but it's not impossible that it's also happened in Indonesia and other countries as well.
Okay.
Dr. Sik, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with Dr. Zaffwan. We need to adapt to the new technology, but we need to preserve the norm, values, and the spirit, because as a lecturer and as a parent, we need to pass it down to the younger generation. We need to help preserve the way the younger generation, like students, to interact with each other and the older generation. Like how should they text their lecture, and how should they present their ideas, and etc. I think that is our role in preserving and presenting our identity amidst this new normal condition.
Exactly. All right. I agree with both panel. Based on each post, right? But move to the next question. Before that, there is a short introduction on the next question. Today, great fear is not submerged by time by social isolation. Through technology, it helps to get closer and easier to be with. Looking at evolution and chronology, the technology that helps us in social and communication relationship is first and foremost close to the phone. Call and touch someone. But in 70s and 80s, isolation increased. The outskirts of the city are becoming of suburb of the city by making all people pursue their dreams in the big city. Family grew smaller or split. So mom left home for work, and electronic equipment become a playground in every room. Even in childhood, of course, in adolescence, we are each trapped in our own cocoon. Children to the street. Previously, going out and about in the neighborhood with your friend once unthinkable is now beyond imagination. Today's generation is more and more independent and only happen in the individual environment and only in a more personal context. Children raised in a post-war world sit alone in front of screen in a large house in many houses. This is a group of lost in space. So next question, how we embrace as the generation past and present is the pattern of communicating in this new way. Maybe we can start with Prof. Zaffwan.
We talk about technology, social media, new generation. I guess in our life we cannot ignore the implication of psychology, implication of cultural influence, and so on. So the more we understand about human life, and we tend to know that changes is something that we cannot ignore. It happened whether we like it or not. I think this is from a quote from Khalifa Ali, the Khalif Ali, mentioned, if you want to teach your children, teach something that according to their generation, according to their needs. This is roughly translation, because I'm not good in Arabic. But I guess if you look at how Raymond Williams, this is his Marxist theorist, novelist, and cultural critics. He mentioned about culture has three divergent meanings. One is the process, one is the group activities, one is the group, and the third one is activities. So culture as a process of individual enrichment. So that's why the term, sometimes we use a cultured person, right? So the way he dressed, the way he talk, shows how cultured this person is. I guess if we want to relate back to the history of human civilization, like when the Roman, conquered a lot of land in the world, they address themselves as a Roman very proudly. But other country that is not under their empire, they call it barbaric. So different values, perhaps because of the civilization, the way they dress, the way they talk, make people could adjust people with in their social status or social hierarchy. Of course, culture also relate to the group in particular ways of living. So subculture, or the mainstream culture. Again, in this 21st century, we have a lot of country with multicultural, right? I remember because from coming from Malaysia, we have three major races, like we have a Malay, Indian, and Chinese, and we thought that I myself thought that back then we are multiracial. But when I traveled to Australia, there's more than 100 different races there living harmoniously. That is pretty much a very interesting and fascinating for me to see if people from different background can live together. And also, according to Raymond Williams, culture as an activity pursued by the means of maybe museum or books or concert, like Dr. Danny mentioned just now. He working on the film festival, or perhaps performing art. Those are activities that can enrich culture and share this value, share this way of life to the next generation, or perhaps other culture that hopefully they can start to appreciate different culture. And with the empowerment of social media, we can have a lot of sharings of different culture. And hopefully by understanding more about other culture, we start to appreciate more about our own culture. But again, of course, like I said, culture is only one indicator to represent our own identity, because human itself is very unique. I probably go to the same school with Dr. Ashik. We are both perhaps Malay. I'm not sure. Maybe Dr. Ashik has some descendant from Mexico. He looks like Mexican sometimes. But I mean, culturally, we probably have the same identity, but individually, we have different things that we like, or different things that we do on daily basis. So culture is not limited on the geographical factor. or perhaps even racial factor, because some people, can preserve their culture even though they are not living in the country that they used to practice the culture. But of course, when you talk about culture or heritage, we have to look at. I mean, this is according to UNESCO. They have a distinguish between what we call as tangible heritage, cultural heritage, and intangible cultural heritage. And based from my readings, I think the intangible cultural heritage is proven to be the hardest component that for us to preserve, because this is the clothes that we wear, has to be changed accordingly to the perhaps the trend, the way we speak. There is a story told by my friends who he went to United States for study, and he met this one old guy, Malay, who used to travel from Malaysia to States from I think in 60s. So then after that he doesn't practice the speaking Malay. So when he met with my friends, he tried to convey speaks in Malay, but the way he speaks, the Malay language that he used reflect the 60s Malay. So if you look at like old movie, the way they speaks, or maybe our granddad or great granddad, if we have it recorded or they still live, then we can see that even the language, the way we communicate, changes through different generation. That's why I mean, as a lecturer, we have to keep track with our students, because students come and goes. Lecturer maintain and stay in one place. So every year for the past 1 decade, I'm meeting with students at the age of 20s, but my age become older and older. So I have to learn their language as well, so that I can become close to them. So yeah, that's my comment.
Next, for Prof. Denny, through our experience and also more likely to defend the culture that we know that Indonesia and Malaysia has it in the sense, what can today technology and pattern see in defending culture issue in the context of social media? Is this a style that can sustain a culture that has always been admired, or does it change our social style?
Just like what I said, that the means of interaction may change, but we need to preserve the norm of interaction, because it is the very soul of our culture. And maybe before I talk about how to preserve the culture, but maybe I want to add, or maybe to comment about my opinion about the question, the same question to the Dr. Zaffwan. Yeah. We may not able to practice the manner like in indirect conversation, but we can change its forms into unwritten norms that we could socialize to the younger generation. And for the older generation, maybe we also need to embrace them by giving the understanding of the shifting culture. As you know, that Indonesia are well known for their togetherness. Yeah, we do everything together. We have mass ceremonies, mass culture event, and art performance, and we have a saying. The saying, like this is a Japanese language. Yeah, mangan ora mangan asal kumpul. Yeah, which means it's better not to eat than to not get together. So we need to have the older generation be aware of the situation, shift into the new culture. just mean not the essence of the spirit behind the philosophy of the culture. Just to add the comment of the previous question to Dr. Zaffwan. This is my opinion. And about the how to preserve the culture in this situation. Can I share my presentation? I always using the Japanese tradition as a basis of my idea to for making a movie, like this film, yeah, Kalap or Fury. This film based on the story of Raden Aryo Penangsang. Yeah, he lived in a maybe 14th century. Yeah, and it's about how he defend his tribe. So in my dance film, I'm using a traditional culture, and especially in a literature. So and like this is my new film, and I produced it in 2019. The title is Being a Prosecutor, and the story of the Being Prosecutor is based on the Japanese tradition literature.
Maybe we can continue.
We just ask another question. With Prof. Zaffwan. Yep. Now in that situation, blessing through this, it has allowed isolated people to communicate with each other and marginalized people in search for each other. Many problems that were once seen as strange are now no longer social. This opportunity to make the internet and social media evolve is a good thing, but in reality, it has changed the real human norms. 10 years ago, sending an email was a huge thing in life, and it felt great. But now, sending text message on mobile, posting picture on our Facebook page, and following stranger completely on Twitter is more effective from the access and practical. The flow of contracts through virtual, notional, or simulation makes all way to electronic nest and relationship seem increasingly important today. Apparently, his goal now to become famous, to make himself a miniature celebrity. How many friends do my name generate? Visibility guarantee our self-esteem and substitute twice removed for genuine relationship. Before long, it was easy to feel lonely. Now it is impossible to be alone. According to this, Prof, what is happening in Malaysia? Everyone is chasing popularity, chasing to be known in the virtual space by ignoring the culture that we have always maintained. The world shames can be seen to fade. Are we nurturing a generation like that? Where is one aspect do we see today generation so confident to this communication that their ways and patterns are social? This happened last week via our online interview method. All candidates who made video recorded introducing themselves or virtually had no problem communicating in front of the camera. This is culture for them, and they are not awkward in communicating through this method. This clearly shows that this is culture and pattern of to say something about this. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Ashik, your voice is sometimes clear, sometimes not. But I try to answer, give the answer my very best. Okay. Perhaps you're given some of the examples, right? The goods and bad, positive and negative aspects. Perhaps the one that you mentioned regarding students performing well when they send a video of themselves. Perhaps those are good example of the positive aspects of digital media. This is to ease the nerve of physical interaction, perhaps due to lack of confidence or social skill, which especially for those who are considered as introvert. So that is a good aspect of it. So they don't have the pressure of interacting with another human being that or stranger, and I guess that's a research that indicate how people can behave differently when they know that they are observed and recorded. So there are lots of findings that address the issue. I guess if you look at example like when you, I know that Dr. Ashik done a lot of photography and taking photograph and videos, and you can see that if you shooting talent that asked to perform, but if you simply record to public, you can see that people suddenly change their behavior, and that's common. But I guess on the positive side, like I mentioned just now, the fact that they know that they are not interact physically, that could ease their lack of inconfidence. And I think currently social media offer unprecedented opportunities to express and share our feelings, thoughts, and ideas, which generally uncommon to the previous generation. Especially, I'm talking in the context of Asian culture. If we remember the way our parents, or perhaps the way we brought up by our parents, or even our parents' generation, it's very uncommon, or perhaps at certain degree considered as unethical to talk when our elders are talking. So and sometimes the children feel uncomfortable to express themselves because at home they are being trained not to talk or to express their feelings explicitly. So I guess what's happening now, what Dr. Ashik mentioned earlier in their questions, is that at the individual level, the social media has empowered them to express, to share their thoughts. Whether it's positive or not, it depends on the context. Of course, the negative aspect of the social media, the outcome of it, maybe reflect on the aggression. Like you can simply bash people, send comments that is not positive, or make people feel uncomfortable, and that can also happen because people feel that they don't have to reveal themselves, or they can stay anonymous. I think the mode of interaction becomes so different. When we talk bad in front of other people, we also representing ourselves. We cannot hide from our appearance. But in social media, people can always change their profile, or create fake account, use anonymous name, so they don't have that attachment. Then they feel that they can do anything. So I think that is the the part where we need to start thinking of how to educate our new generation in terms of there are certain aspects of communication values because we cannot attach or detach values from culture. Every culture has, has some sort of positive values embedded in the culture, and that will also culture the individual level. So I guess addressing ethical issues or how to conduct what commonly accept in the social media is very important. I think in the education, remember we have 3 different domain of learning domain, like we have a cognitive, we have a psychomotor, and we have affective domain. In this case, I would say the emphasis on the affective domain is very important, so that student knows how to behave. Things like we have to agree to disagree. Of course, when we communicate or we express our thoughts, especially within different culture, there must be some different opinion happens there, some argument. So we need to have that agree to disagree, or we need to be able to accept diversity in terms of values and views. That's why I guess on my personal level, I don't tend to comments or even post anything that relates to politics. Maybe because as academics, and as a public government servant, I think it's not ethical. But at the same time, I guess because of our culture, I mean, everything needs to relate to the politics. And it becomes a very unhealthy interaction whenever any political views being posted in the social media.
Yeah, agree with Prof. Zaffwan. Agree with the statement that we need to react to the trend, but at the same time we have to face the technology to adapt to the norms. Yeah, very big difference between us and then the new generation. Sometimes we do online class, we're not really comfort to see our own face. This shows that the social media can train them to facing all these things. Dr. Sarina.
Dr. Asik.
Dr. Danny is here.
Preservation of the traditional culture in my way. So yeah, it's like what I said, but sorry, we lost in with the signal. Every generation will grow according to their era. The new technology, of course, shape the way of the people in this era. On the way people of this era interact and communicate, of course, yeah. The indirect interaction leave certain burden and also some cultural values. So our duty as a lecturer, for example, is to make sure that it doesn't happen. It may shift, but not lost. There are some essential norms and values that we need to maintain and pass down to the next generation because it is our identity. And one of my way to do this is by presenting it in the films, especially in a dance film, something which is closer and more familiar with the young generation. So, like this film, Kalap or Fury, yeah. I present an old literature and teaching in a modern way, which alhamdulillah, it's accepted by the younger generation. Like this is my work, yeah. I produced it in 2019, and which received award in several festivals. Like this month, tomorrow it will present in a American Dance Festival by Mover in USA, in Durham, USA, and also like this is my last production, which is I produced it during the pandemic COVID-19 in the middle of April, and yesterday it won the award, for the audience favorite awards. So it's so how the younger generation and the people in general can receive the teaching of all the Japanese culture. If it is presented in media that are more relevant to the next generation, I think that's my way to prevent and to or maybe not only prevent but also develop our culture into and how I try to adapt this new era. Maybe that's my comment about how to present to prevent to preserve our culture in this new era, Dr. Asik. Thank you.
Very interesting, Prof. Denny. I would like to share some short info. If you can see from the statistic in social media today, there were 26 million social media users in Malaysia, January 2020. The number of social media users in Malaysia increased by 1 million between April 2019 and January 2020. Social media penetration in Malaysia stood in 81% in January 2020. There were 40.69 million mobile connections in Malaysia in January 2020. The number of mobile connections in Malaysia, January 2020, was equivalent to 127 of the total population. The world has changed dramatically over the first 3 months of 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic impacting almost every aspect in our life. This change has been clearly to connected device to help them cope with life and under lockdown. What a great change that we can see today is a big jump on digital activity, especially in countries that have been strictly lockdown. Significant increase in social media use with a video calling talking center stage, accelerating adoption of e-commercial, particularly of grocery shopping, increase in the amount of spend playing video game and watching e-sport, and some unexpected opportunity for digital advertiser. From this fact and then the stats, we are moving to into the industrial and technological condition that play a key role in changing the way we interact with the world. Are we the one who shape them in change, or the technology that change everything? As we know, technology plays an important role in today's communication and social. However, it's behind where there are several example business talking technology in place of big names such in the past, such as Motorola, Kodak, cassette tape, CD, newspaper, booksellers, traditional television, and many more. What do panelists think? Probably we can start with Dr. Denny. I think from Indonesia perspective.
I have pointed earlier, maybe that every generation will grow according to their era. The new technology, of course, shape the way of the people in this era, on the way people of this era interact and communicate. The indirect interaction leaves a certain burden there, like and also some cultural values. So like what I said before, our duty as a lecturer is try to make sure that it doesn't happen. It might seem, but please don't be lost like that. The way to interact may be different, but we need to pass it down, yeah, our norm and values to the students. Maybe that's my point about your question. Yeah, because we need to preserve our identity. Yeah, we cannot lose our identity. What we can do is only to keep it our identity around in our heart, in the way of communication. And the new generation have this technology. We cannot deny that. Yeah, what we can do is only try to maintain the norm and the values. That's what our identity. So we have to maintain that.
Okay.
We want to run with the technology. I'm sure that we cannot do that. Yeah, it's
So,
fast. It's very rapid.
what about Prof. Zaffwan? Anything to say about this?
I guess in general comment for this is we are living in a world that is in constant change. So we cannot stop the changes. It's happened previously, current, and in the future. So I guess the idea is to establish a good ecosystem that enables and empower the new generation to adapt with the technology, but at the same time, proud to embrace their unique culture. And this is how we, can encourage our new generation to preserve our culture, maybe thousands or hundreds of years of developing and preserving our culture. Perhaps if I may, I want to share some of the project done by our final year student. Only, I can show a very short clip so that
Yes, please.
just to show example how in the context of education, we encourage our new generation, in this case our students, to participate in the culture through their creativity or creative expression or skills that they learn. For example, this is a final project done by animation students. So how can they use the animation skills, to reflect the culture that represent themselves?
Ada pun kisah tersebutlah cerita di negara Kuala Dua punya pada KPK Malaysia Selangor. Yang ada berkanak ke bunga sakti, yakni bunga cempaka putih nak dibuat penawar pada KPK Siti, yakni isteri Maharaja Selangor. Menikah ke oleh balai raja, yakni Laksmana Radin masuk menghadap. Ada pun hajat ambo, nak siapa kepada kita ambo, nak minta ambil pada ke bunga sakti. Bunga cempaka putih. Di pokok cempaka gila kerana ambo nak pada ke bunga, nak beri pada ke isteri ambo. Begitu tu. Dengan kandok ambo tunggu. Kalau benarlah begitu pada ke Laksmana. Ambo nak royak lah pada ke satu benda hikmat. Nak beri atas Laksmana pada ke tepak yang orang panggil Ala Dewata. Lagu mana tu aku? Begini. Nak pergi pada ke tempat yang orang panggil Ala Dewata ni. Ambo nak mengejapi. Nak suruh beri tu kataki habis tubuh badan. Kalau benarlah begitu, boleh tu aku ambo tunggu. Kelok keliki pahak lene gong ketok. Si kata ting para ari he. maka sekenak siung habis jajak sekenak buka habis tepung. Tiga habis pusing.
Okay, I guess I mean the animation is quite long, so I perhaps I can stop there. And what I'm trying to show here is that, of course, for students who enroll in the animation, they need to learn the concept, the skills of on how to produce the animation. But in this case, by combining their skills and knowledge of animation to produce something that, local context animation that reflects their culture and identity. In this case, they have to do some research. These of students, they have to travel back to Kelantan and to take some photos, to interview, to get some informations, so that they can use that information to produce 3D animation. So in a way, not only they can practice and showcase their skills in animation, but by doing the research on their own culture and identity, they tend to appreciate their own uniqueness. They learn on how to incorporate Kelantan language in the. This is a shadow puppet. And of course, you can see this type of performing arts is becoming less and less popular. So in a way, they can preserve this cultural heritage, but in a different form. So we usually look at the on the 2D aspect. Now, how can they integrate those characters in this shadow puppet, or what we call as wayang kulit, into a 3D environment? So this is one example of examples of how we can embed project for students in order for them to participate in the culture through their creative expressions.
Really good visual video. I think I've been to that final.
Yeah, Dr. Ashik was one of the external assessor or examiner that we invited to evaluate our students. And I think one more thing that Dr. Ashik also mentioned is some of the brands that probably quite familiar back then, but because of the shift of the technology, some brands become irrelevant. You mentioned about Kodak, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the perspective of brand, I guess this is how a classic example of a brand that relies so much on product, tangible product. I'm giving another example like Nike. If you think that Nike is selling sport shoes or sport track, then you are probably not even half true or half right. The big brand nowadays focusing more, shift their attention, not relying on the tangible product, but towards intangible products. So Nike, for example, they probably sells confidence. So again, you cannot buy confident like you purchase shoes, but having wearing Nike shoes, for example, you may find confident installed in yourself. So that's how certain product nowadays shift I give another example like Starbucks. If you look at the Starbucks, they don't just sell coffee because, of course, if you compare the price, then you can get cheaper coffee in other cafe, or even if you go to Mama store, it costs you $1.20 or $2. But if you go to Starbucks, they charge you 14 or 18 ringgit. But people still go there because the idea of Starbucks is that they don't only sell product, they sell the service that embed with the product. They also, have this big idea that provide that what we call as third space. So it's not home, and it's not workplace or for student maybe schools, but they provide what we call as third space that combine the work environment with the home or house environment. That's why you can see that the layout of the Starbucks, they have a different purpose. People can go there and do their work, or they have a small discussion or even a group discussion, meetings with good internet connectivity. So that become a culture by itself, and how people embrace the change, and from the economic point of view, they make a lot of profits because they can charge more. So I guess that's my take on the questions.
It's really good info, Prof. Zaffwan. Totally agree with you. Now we are selling more on service, more on lifestyle instead of the the actual product. Yep, correct. Okay. We got to the end of the forum today. Maybe this is the last question to the panel. Maybe we can start with Prof. Denny. Based on this, what is the final conclusion that we can find from this forum? Clearly showing that this culture is welcome in addition to these new norms. Can all layers respond, especially the old generation, respond well when we have physical limitation? I've seen Prof. Denny go through webcam with big family on first Shawwal in Facebook. Probably you can discuss on this, Prof.
Yeah.
People and then all the layers of the generation.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear the last statement.
Especially the old generation, they can accept all this situation without physical. I mean, we have a physical limitation. We are not moved back to the hometown, something like that. They can accept that.
Yeah, we cannot deny the situation, especially this pandemic situation. Yeah, every people face this pandemic, and we cannot move from this this virus. So I think this my final statement is, in my point of view, especially as a lecturer and a filmmaker, the society and culture can survive in this era if they can adapt the current situation and condition. For example, like what I said, that the number of traditional dance or dance practice are very limited today. So if we don't preserve the culture and present it into the new media, the younger generation will probably get lost track of it. The world has changed. The culture is changing with it. For example, there will not be live mass performance on the stage anymore. People will not get together for mass traditional ceremony anymore. So if we want to preserve this kind of culture in the next 5 until 10 years, we have no choice but to adapt and to transform it to the new media. Every element of the society needs specific approach and has a particular role to survive this era. I think that's my final statement about this meeting, Dr. Asik.
Thank you, Prof. I think you conclude the whole thing. We have to accept the new technology and then suit with our content and culture. Yeah.
Yes.
And then probably this is the last question for Prof. Zaffwan. What can be predicted based on the pattern that we have now for the next 5 to 10 years with the advent of that industry, the Industry 4.0 revolution that has indirectly prolonged us every day. AI and various media are contributing to the rapid movement of the technology industry today. Prof. Zaffwan, probably you have something to say.
This is the hardest question given by Dr. Ashik. Keyword here is the liberalization of digital connectivity. So we are in the verge of welcoming a new 5G technology, where it will change, tremendously in our social life. Downloading high resolution or high definition video, which may take half an hour now, with 5G can be downloaded in a matter of seconds, I guess, right? So that in the future, it can be 6 or 7 Gs in the next 5 or 10 years. And that will enable us to communicate and interact more efficiently. When we do synchronous connection, like now we are facing a lot of technical glitch due to the internet connectivity. But with 5G or 6G later, this can happen very smoothly. Talking about device, perhaps we are not constrained to the screen, off-screen devices, custom-made modular system. If you look at China, for example, nowadays there's a shopping complex that sells all those electronic gadgets, where the customer can buy a small component and make their own gadgets. So that I guess in the future become more and more popular. The digital space or digital footprint, your presence in the digital become more and more, I guess, personalized, because in current situation, there is a lack of confidence when we deal with people, especially those who we not familiar with through digital. But when we spend more and more time in the digital context, all things that consider personal becomes more accessible, I guess, in the future. That's why we need perhaps start to think of our digital profile, our presence in digital or virtual area. Wearable tech, like I seen Dr. Ashir, make use of his iWatch to take photos and maybe to use it to during his activity in gym to measure his calorie, things like that. So in future, it will not only stop at smartwatch. It become part of our things that we wear, like clothes. I think Nike has established a device that can attach on the shoes that track your exercise. That is only the beginning of the advancement of digital technology. Esports, with the recent current pandemic, how Olympics, one of the oldest sport events, currently start thinking of to accept e-sport as part of the Olympic events. So we're looking at how virtual reality and augmented reality and mixed reality become more and more popular. The evidence is clear because the Facebook and also Google are already invested a lot in those technology. The status quo, the access to high tech like I mentioned in China, I mean, you can customize your device based on your needs, and it's just, you know, require your imagination and creativity to create your own, you know, new devices with the current technology. Of course, we are talking about, you know, digital space in terms of all the information, all the files that used to be kept in the CD or DVD or in portable drive, now, you know, become cloud storage. Again, perhaps because the more and more time we spend in using device or digital technology, we need to have a good battery or power that you know, ensure our connectivity lasts longer. Those are examples that I guess will have a massive change in all aspects of our life, in the context of economy, education, politics, and so on. I guess that's pretty much the exciting part of the next 5 years, but you never know. Because for example, like this pandemic, who knows, like, you know, when this pandemic happened, it disrupt you know, all aspects of our life, but at the same time offers new opportunities. And I guess this is back to our survival mode. So whenever threat, you know, happen to us, and to ensure the, you know, the our safety, to preserve the needs of our, not just the culture, but our life, we change, and we able to change. So I guess that's one of my my opinion on the predicting the future. But again, I may be wrong because it's, you know, it's very hard to predict futures. But I remember when I was very young, like 7, 6 years old. I like to watch, if you remember, Hannah and Brava animation, Flintstone, and also the Jetson. I'm not sure whether Indonesia have the same cartoon series, but if you look at, you know, Jackson Family is more, you know, predicting the future, and then very contrast to Flintstone, where they try to portray how, you know, prehistoric family lived during that time. So as a human, we have a very you know, a massive capability on creativity, and how to create, and this creativity helps us to create narrative, imagination, and some of the technology, I guess, driven by this imaginative and creativity. You know, for example, like a very classic novel, 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. They describe a submarine that used a certain type of technology, which eventually relate to what we call as now nuclear technology. But when the novel was published, there is no technology that similar to a nuclear technology available that time. So sometimes, you know, people with science fiction, they can come up with this, you know, brilliant story, brilliant idea, and turn into a novel or even movie. Nowadays, we look at a lot of movies, you know, try to predict how future is happening, and some of the prediction are I would say quite accurate to what is happening nowadays. So I guess, of course, we have to look at it in the positive side. At the same time, be conscious of the, you know, negative implication I guess the advancement of digital technology and digital media should make our life more efficient in terms of social work, time, place, even decision making. Nowadays, we're talking about big data, artificial intelligence that allow us to make a quick decision, an accurate decision. But whether that can replace our what we call gut instinct, that question. So that we can enjoy more time, spend more time doing personal matters, taking care of ourselves. We don't have to work hard anymore. So the computer or the technology will do it for us, or the robot will do it for us. Then we have more time, socializing and enjoy our life. But if we are not careful enough, then we could end up jeopardizing its sole purposes. So especially when we become so dependent on the digital technology and digital media, the worst case scenario, we become slave, as opposed to what we call as Khalifa, or the ruler or the chosen. As a human, we believe that we are chosen by Allah or God to look after this world. So again, that responsibility is us to take and for us to protect. That's all.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Zaffwan. I think it's a more likely 70 to 80%. You predict the echo from what we have achieved today. So I think it's possible to have it for Prof. Zaffwan and Prof. Denny. If you, I'll try to conclude based on our forum today. If you look at all it today, a lot of attention is being put through social media, from entertainment to business, from one who has nothing to become a popular, a source of inspiration, from having question to finding answer, from silent to worship. All this can be done using social media, but unmonitored use cause unwanted condition on the cultural factors that we maintain can also be destroyed by unlimited treatment. It also can be an individual and social treat to everyone. Be smart user of social media for everyone. So thank you. We have reached the end of the forum today. Thanks to both of our panel members who are willing to discuss today's issue, and we continue to face whether or not they are inconsistent with the practicalities of our new norms as we face the involved in this forum, both live and online. Thank you everyone who enjoy watching this session, and remain safe for us to fight this outbreak. I'm sorry if it was misunderstood and even offended. It is hoped that what is being discussed of great benefit to all of us. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.